Muy queridos amigos, es un verdadero placer darle la bienvenida a Latincouver Talks una vez más. Thank you so much for watching this Latincouver episode. And we have a very special guest. Por favor, haz la introducción de quién nos acompaña hoy.
Okay. Welcome, friends. So today, as John said, we have a very special guest. He's running for the MP for the Liberal Party, and he's going for the Vancouver Fraser View South Burnaby. So with you, we have Gregor Robertson. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Gracias, obrigado.
Oh, so you already spoke in Spanish and Portuguese.
Un poquito.
It's
Sí.
great to have you here.
Yeah, great to be with you.
We are going to have just talk as we have all these Latincouver talks that we talk about many things. We've talked about taxes. We're talking about so many different
topics.
And it's great to have you here because we have election day on the 28th of April, and
Right.
as Latinos, a lot of the people who's watching, we have no idea how things happen here in Canada about elections. You have a lot of things. I mean, you've been mayor for almost 10 years. A lot of people know you, but this is just friends talk that we can talk about what's going on.
Yes. So the special motive about this interview is to teach the Latin community how everything works in Canada about politics.
Okay.
So let's go just into it.
Yeah.
About like returning to politics, what you can say about that?
Well, I finished in the end of 2018 as mayor, and I served 3 terms as mayor and 1 term as MLA before that. I was first elected in 2005 in the middle of Vancouver, Fairview neighborhood, Mount Pleasant, and that was first term and then 3 terms as mayor.
How old were you?
That whole time?
I mean,
I started...
because you're so young. So if you already were 10 years as a mayor,
You're not so
or
sure.
is it
I'm
because
not
you play
so young.
soccer?
I'm not. It's because I play soccer.
Okay. But how old were you whenever you started in politics?
When I started in politics, I was 40. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's almost
So-
my age.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I'm going to be 51 now, so
yeah. So I'm 60 now.
great.
So and feeling good. And as I was working since being in politics, so I finished about 6 years ago at the city of Vancouver at City Hall, and I thought, okay, that's my politics career. I'm going to go do other things now. And 6 years I've been working. I went back into business some, but I had the big honor of working with mayors around the world, all over the world, as their global ambassador. Basically at the UN level, I got to represent over 13,000 mayors and focus on climate and energy issues, which are connected to everything, particularly with the disasters that are hitting our cities around the world all the time. Lots of activity in cities trying to deal with climate change and transitioning energy from fossil to renewables. So I did that work for the last 6 years. I loved it. It was very interesting work. But about 3 weeks ago now, Prime Minister Mark Carney, the new leader of the Liberal Party, who became Prime Minister, reached out and asked me to run for the team, to join the team.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think long. I thought the Prime Minister's calling. And I was really worried about the U.S. situation. The whole world is something I've been worried about in terms of climate change and all the impacts to people around the world. But right now we have a crisis with the U.S. and the whole global economy that made, it's very, very difficult times. Like, we never imagined this would happen in North America between Canada, U.S., and Mexico for everything to be broken like this because of a president. So I felt I need to step back into public service and serve my country. And, I know how my city works from being a mayor here, and I want to represent my city also in Ottawa in the federal government. So it's a combination of continuing to act locally, get things done for my city, but also to be able to contribute for my country, and particularly in these very tough times.
Okay. How was Gregor as a kid?
as a
I'm
kid.
sorry, this is not even written. I'm
Yeah.
just thinking that you went to politics,
Yeah.
and you had a big business about juices and
Right.
many things, and in 2020 you had a big program about the greenest city in the world for Vancouver. So I just wanted to go a little back and see how was your childhood?
Well, good question. Not predictable. I never imagined I would be a politician. Even in my 20s, I never thought about that being a career. That came later. So as a kid, I was more serious. I was serious about school, but I love sports. I love music.
You play
Those
instrument?
were my passions. Yeah, I was guitar and drums.
Did you have a band?
Yeah, had a band. We used to play Kiss covers. You know the band
Oh,
Kiss?
of course.
Nice.
We-
Classic.
Did you paint your
Yeah,
face?
we paint our faces,
Okay.
all that business. And so I had bands, but I was also in high school in bands, and I played tuba and trombone. I was brass instruments,
wow.
so played
So
jazz
the guitar,
and
but
concert.
the trombone.
Yeah, well, one was like rock and roll music,
Okay.
and the other one was concert music, jazz, choirs, things like that. So I was very involved in my school music programs, marching band for a while. I did a lot of music when I was young, but also played a lot of sports. So those are the things I really loved, but I never thought those would be a career. I thought I would be a doctor when I was young. That was my goal, to go become a doctor. And I didn't get into medical school when I applied. They said, no, try again next year. And I went traveling and changed my whole perspective. Once I saw the world for the first time, traveled to Asia and Africa, and that set me on a different course. And I actually became a farmer. I learned how to grow food. I got into healthy food, which is connected to medicine, and
That's why the juice and.
that's why the juice happened.
Okay.
Yeah, started making juice and smoothies, starting from the farms here in BC, including mine, and producing the healthiest juice we could, and that became a big success. I did that for 10 years, but I got more and more political. As I got older, I started to connect the dots between, the political system, government. Why are we eating so much unhealthy food? Why doesn't the government pay attention to this? I started to, first was active in politics or government because of food and the politics of food, which are very challenging. A lot of big monopolies, big companies that control the food system around the world, which is very difficult for governments and the political world to wrestle with. But once I got into the political world, I got really interested. I thought this is where we make big decisions all together. This is the most important work that I could be doing, and I thought I'll switch into politics.
How old were you when you felt like the call for the public service?
Yeah, I was in my late 30s at that point. I think I was I was first elected when I was 40. So I started campaigning, working on campaigns in my late 30s. Yeah, before that it was business and farming and kids, and I had a very busy life with everything else. But once politics got in my system, I was very driven. I wanted to represent my community and work in government, and so that was about 20 years went by there. About 14 years in politics.
Sorry I did that question, but a lot of people who didn't know about you and a lot of people who know you, I think it's great to to do a refreshment and see where you come from.
Mm-hmm.
If we continue with the politics side of the interview, I want to ask you, what is the Liberal Party stands for? Like in general, what are your principles, your goals, so people here can understand a little bit more about the politics, how it works here in Canada?
Yeah, well, I'd say the Liberal Party of Canada is, I think, always strives to find that balance between first and foremost serving people, and from the most important parts of our Constitution and governing over the last few generations. The Charter of the Rights and Freedoms is a central piece that I think is identified with Liberals, and supporting people first. Canadians and immigration for many years. Lots of Canadians have come in because of previous Liberal prime ministers and their governments who welcomed lots of immigrants from around the world. And I'd say that balance of people and looking after the environment, the world around us that supports us, and also business and economy. It's finding that balance between the three-legged stool of people, planet, and
equilibrium.
And economy. And we have to be creative with our economy. We have a very diverse economy. We have very diverse people. We have a huge country, very diverse environment to look after. So it's, I think at the core, it's finding that right balance. I think you see with other parties, not so much balanced. I'd say to be very more partisan about it, Conservatives tend to make cuts and reduce the taxes and cut services to people, which is one school of thought for managing the collective tax and money, the budget for the country. That has impact on people, but it can be better for some business. The New Democrats and Bloc Québécois generally tend to be more on the other side, with higher taxes, farther left. So in the left-right spectrum, that's been with the major parties in Canada. The Green Party kind of floats around, and generally doesn't elect as many people, has been more focused at times on environment. But that's roughly where the parties fall. And the CBC actually has a political compass, they call it, the political compass, and you can answer questions and figure out where you are, how you align with the different parties in Canada, which is an interesting tool. But I think all of us, it's our responsibility in a democracy to see who's running in their community, what they believe in, what their history is, what they want to deliver and do for people, and do the research, do the work to make sure you're informed when you go to vote.
So actually, part of that, following your words, you were saying everything about the Liberal Party, but what about the other parties? What are the difference between them?
Yeah, well, that's, I would give a general sense of it. I think right now, big reason that I decided to run was because of what's happened with the U.S. and the pressure the U.S. is putting on Canada, on Mexico, on many countries, disrupting the whole balance of world trade and relationships between our countries. I think, I feel very upset about everything that's happening right now. And I lived for some years in the U.S. I went to university in the U.S., most of my university there, a little bit at UBC, but I have family in the U.S. I think a lot of us have deep connections in Canada and Mexico with the U.S. We have family, we have friends, we have worked, lots of connections, and all of a sudden to see that broken apart and threatened by this president, which I don't think is well supported by American people. But this is what's happening. They elected that president, and this is what he's doing. So we all have to deal with that. The big concern that I've had in Canada is the Conservative Party is much more aligned with the Republicans. Same politics, basically. And I think you hear in some of the language they use, some of the techniques politically. They don't go to debates. They don't talk to media. Everything's through their own channels on social media. They have big rallies. They're very similar style of politics. And I don't want those politics in Canada. I don't want a government in Canada that that wants to cave in to the U.S. right now. I want to be part of a government that stands up to the U.S. And that works with Mexico and all of our other partners in Latin America, Europe, Asia. We'll build those connections stronger. If the U.S. is going to be like this, we all have to work together better between the other countries, and that's where I see Mark Carney's leadership. He's our leader, the current now Prime Minister. I think he has immense amount of experience, huge experience on the world stage, economically with finance and business, and I think he brings experience and gravitas would be the closest word, a seriousness on dealing with the U.S., being very firm and clear. We've already seen that between him and Trump, changing the dynamics the last few weeks. I think that's what we need right now. I want to work with him. I want to support that approach with the U.S., because I think the Conservative Party in Canada will cave in to the U.S. right now, and that would be very bad for Canada.
Let's talk now about Latinos.
Mm-hmm.
How important are the Latinos for Canada, for Vancouver?
Yeah, well, I've been blown away in my time as mayor, going back to 2008, kind of the beginnings of Latincouver, Carnaval del Sol. It was like all of a sudden the Latin community was here and organized and enlivening the city, which was fantastic. It's been building now for 20 years in a way that I don't remember from before. And I traveled some, mostly Mexico, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Central America a little bit, but I didn't feel that presence in Vancouver until I was at City Hall, really, until I was elected. And since then, it just feels like you hear Spanish and Portuguese on the street regularly in the city. There's events, there's music, there's culture like never before, which is a huge, huge benefit for our city. So I have the work of the whole community to thank. It really made my time as mayor special. It added a lot more life and not just life, but economy. There's contributions across all things that go on in our city that were not welcome, not acknowledged before, I think. So I think as a city, we've got much more engaged with the community. It's a growing community. I think the numbers are steadily being climbing. Yeah, like big growth. I think over time that's only going to continue, and that's a good thing for Vancouver. It's a really good thing for Vancouver. I lived for most of the last 10 years. I lived in the West End by the beach, and that beach is like, it reminds me of beaches in Rio. It reminds me of beaches in Mexico, because you hear Spanish and Portuguese on the beach all the time in the summer. It's like, and I don't remember that when I was a kid on that beach, which I don't call English Bay anymore because it's not English. It's the name of Musqueam and Squamish Tsleil-Waututh name is Ayalshan of that beach. And when I was mayor, we didn't get very far as we wanted in terms of getting the original place names from Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh. They have maps of all the names of places. Ayalshan is the name of that place, as I know it from my Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh friends. That beach is now, I think, it's like a Latin beach in Vancouver. And I'm sure maybe Kitts Beach is the same, but I spend more time right there and hear the music, and I think those are examples of the culture influencing our city. But I think it's happening in all sorts of different ways with jobs and economy and business. I think there's a lot more influence than there was a decade or two ago.
Talking about jobs and all of these, there's a lot of Latinos who come here with professional degrees. And sometimes they just feel like there's a barrier. they have amazing doctors or amazing architects, and they come here, and it's not easy to work in whatever you know or you want to work to get those credentials. You think that could be a little easier for Latinos to come to Canada, to support Canada, and to bright as their jobs?
Yeah, I definitely think there's work to do there, and the province generally governs the professional associations and credential side of things. And I think right now this is the opportunity side of the challenge we have with the U.S. right now is we have to change how we operate as a country. We're not relying on the U.S. anymore. We can't. We're threatened by the tariffs, by the attitude, by the changes from the president and his government. So we have to change. That's an opportunity for us. And I think when we look at changing the Canadian economy and making it more robust and trading more with Latin America, Europe, and Asia, that's a two-way street. We want to open the doors. We want to accelerate the opportunities and grow the Canadian economy with all of this talent that we have here. So I think it's Mark Carney in his last month, basically since he became Prime Minister, got very focused on One Canada, Team Canada approach. And all 13 of the premiers of the provinces and the territories are now in agreement that the barriers between the provinces will change, because some of those credentials and some of those challenges are because the provinces are all different. Some recognize, some don't, which makes it very hard for people, immigrants who are trying to be able to work and work to their potential and opportunity. So I think if we see that commitment realized in the next few months, right now there's I think the commitment is by July the 1st, by Canada Day, we will have One Canada in terms of no barriers that prevent people from moving jobs, credentials, and trade between our provinces and territories. That's a huge change in Canada. It's never been like that before. So that's a breakthrough. And then if we think of the new relationships and recognition between other countries, other trading partners, like starting with Mexico, there's been a long connection with Canada and Mexico, and that's obviously one that needs to move fast given the U.S. change. So I think there's real opportunity now to reset that, and what the provinces are saying is this is what we want. We want to work together. The federal government, even though their politics are very different, some provinces are very conservative, some are very NDP, some are liberal, but that's all being put aside for one country, which is exciting. So, but we need to see the detail, like how do we deal with credentials, professional accreditation? How do we make sure we do everything we can to strengthen our economy when it's being threatened right now? Because we're going to lose lots of jobs, lots of impact, which will be devastating for many people, and because of the U.S. attitude and changes. So we have to look at all the things we can do to be stronger.
And actually talking about trading, that's one of the questions, like if you're gonna consider Latin America as an option to trade and to work with the community, like more like the community with the countries in Latin America, you know, like where you, because you mentioned about like working with Mexico, and what about the rest of Latin America? That will be an
huge
option?
Opportunities. Absolutely, there's so many opportunities, and I know I was in Ecuador. I spent a lot of the last year working in Brazil, Colombia, and Ecuador, and those three countries I think all have huge potential. And you know, you look across all of Latin America, there's way more potential for partnerships, for economic partnerships with Canada, and more trade. And I think the Ecuador Free Trade Agreement is recently signed. They were working on that when I was there, and I think that got completed over the last few months. These are advancing. I think the work has been advancing. now we need to accelerate. Given what's happened with the U.S., we need to accelerate that work. And I think the connection north-south in the Americas is one that's we just have huge potential. Like there's so much potential to it that has never been focused on. Other than people like you guys who've come, you've made the connections, you built the bridges. Luckily we have that, and luckily we have connections between our countries. We need to build on those, and we need to see our governments invest and support that, make sure we can go faster and go deeper.
What about one of the fears I think that Latinos we have? It's about family reunification. Do you think there's a way to make it a little easier to families to be together? Because there's a lot of wait times and many things that we can probably make it a little better for those families to be together in Canada.
Yeah, interesting question. It's been unfortunately it's gotten more challenging in recent months. Over this past year, we've seen a lot of concern about immigration in Canada, that it's too much, too many people coming too fast, and that it's partly responsible for the housing shortage and the healthcare pressures. Our services are not keeping up. So how do we find that balance right now? And the Liberal government that has been in power for the last 9 years under Prime Minister Trudeau has basically reduced the immigration levels for the next couple years through 2027, recognizing that it's been too fast, too many people coming for the services of the housing, what we can provide here, and it's impacting Canadians and immigrants' ability to settle and find their place. So now we've got this U.S. threat. We've got everything changing now because of the U.S. So it's I think a really interesting time. I like how our Prime Minister Mark Carney, our new Prime Minister, is an opportunity to reset things and to basically focus on new priorities, which is why I'm interested in being back in politics, because I see the priorities are going to shift. We have a leader who recognizes the importance of global trade and relationships. He knows how that works. He knows how to get the best from that. But also his focus, what he's been announcing is we need to focus on building Canada strong and build our economy strong, focus on what we're good at here, which we haven't really done before. Canada's been very focused on exporting resources, not adding value. I was really impressed in Colombia how much value they add, the manufacturing, the expertise to make furniture, to make products. They have amazing forests like we do and forest products, but they make furniture. They make finished goods in Colombia and use the expertise of the people. In Canada, we tend to just ship logs. We cut things down and ship them to other countries to do the work. And that needs to change, I think, and we need to find people with the expertise and train the people with the expertise, more apprenticeships and training, and focus on the Canadian economy and being more resilient. And I think immigration is a key part of that. It's always been part of Canada. The Liberal Party has always recognized the importance of immigration, and now we're at a time where that needs to be part of this next evolution of our country. So I think there's real opportunity there. It's a really bumpy time, so I think for the next, for this year that we're in now, we just need to find our way forward, adjusting to the U.S., but the signals right now, I think, are very strong that Canada needs to be stronger economically, and immigrants are a huge part of that.
So, talking about, for example, the message, sometimes we feel like Latin community, we don't have a voice that matters. So for you, what will be your message to those voters from the Latin community that what you will say, like, vote for the Liberal Party, vote for me if they're part of your party, your district. Vote for me or vote for the Liberal Party. What will be your message for them, for those Latinos? They're not sure yet, and sometimes they're confused if they're going to vote or not.
And why they have to vote for your party and for you?
Yeah. Well, again, it's everyone has to make their mind. In a democracy, you decide for yourself based on what you see as the options. And so I encourage everybody to look at the candidates in your riding, look at the parties and the leaders, and do that work, do that research, talk to your family and friends, and so that's the first thing, is just being engaged and paying attention, and seeing how you think it will affect you with these different parties, with these different people who are running for office. I think there is a really clear choice in my mind this time. And this is all very much the political perspective of it, and it's in large part because of what President Trump has done in threatening Canada and the trade tariffs. We have a party that is closer to his party. And there are people that think we should be the 51st state. There are Canadians that think we need to play ball with Trump. We need to be on the team. And I'm not one of those. And the Liberal Party is not one of those. The Liberals are like, no, we're Canada. We're not we will never be the 51st state of the U.S. We would happily continue being partners and friends and brothers and sisters, but we are not you. We are not the U.S. So there's a clear difference between conservatives being more aligned with the U.S., I think, right now, and Liberals not being aligned. And New Democrats and Bloc Québécois have different agendas. I think they're more anti-U.S. right now, keeping that distance. Typically, they've elected a smaller number of MPs. So sometimes they're a balance of power. Sometimes they're just additional seats in the legislature or in the parliament, and it's basically between Liberal and Conservative. It really depends on the riding, because some ridings it's between Liberal and Conservative, some it's between Conservative and NDP, some between all of the parties. So you can also do that research as who are the favorites in different ridings, and understand who you think the real choice is between, because there are lots of other parties and independents too that typically don't get as many votes or as many seats in Parliament. So those are decisions. It's up to everyone to make up their own mind. For me, it was a clear choice, and that was primarily because of Mark Carney taking the leadership and the really clear signal that he sent in dealing with the U.S. and building a stronger Canada.
Well, welcome back to politics.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate for your time being here and having this great talk as friends, as Latincouver Talks. It's always a pleasure to talk about interesting things for people, and I'm sure that it's great for Latinos to know what's going on. This April the 28th?
April 28th. And you can vote sooner. There's advanced voting. You can actually vote now if you go to Elections Canada to their sites. But if you look on the Elections Canada website, it has all the dates for advance voting, and then instructions for April 28th, which is the main election day.
Okay, good luck. And we're also inviting you for Carnaval del Sol.
Yes.
All right.
So it's going to be amazing.
July 11th and to the 13th. So
okay.
Is there going to be a soccer match or no this year? Yes, there's going to be a soccer match.
And we have a
so.
picture,
You ready
actually.
to play?
I'm ready.
We have a picture of you years ago, like playing some soccer, in Carnaval del Sol.
Carnaval del Sol.
We can show it here, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're watching it right now. Look at this picture.
You're gonna see the picture. Yes. So you're more than welcome to to join us.
Thank you.
And for our viewers and listeners, where they can find more information about you, the party, you can tell us like your social media.
Yeah. Okay. Well, first on voting, it's Elections Canada. That's where you go online. Just all the information about voting. For me, Gregor Robertson, all one word, .ca is a site that will guide you into my team and my campaign.
Well, thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
so
coming.
much. Thanks
We're
for the
ready for
opportunity.
Carnaval del Sol. And what else would you like to say?
Just stay informed, get involved. Yeah, our voices that matter. We are a strong community. We have to keep building it together. So this is awesome to understand, to learn more. So thank you. I'm
There's
just
a lot
grateful.
of Latinos. Queridos amigos, les mandamos un abrazo enorme. Es un placer que nos hayan escuchado, que hayan estado en esta entrevista con Gregor. Y de verdad que les mandamos un abrazo y tendremos siempre ganas de mostrar entrevistas y contenido que sea interesante para ustedes. Thank you so much again for being a part of Latincouver Talks. It's a pleasure. Have an amazing day, night, wherever you're watching this interview right now. It's great talking to you again.
Let's not forget about our social media before we
Of
go.
course.
So Latincouver
It's right here. You can see
.ca,
it.
just here. And on Instagram, you can find us as Latincouver, @Latincouver. So see you there. If you have more questions, bring them on.
Cata, a pleasure being with you again.
Es un placer, ya.
Gregor, a pleasure to meet you.
It's a pleasure.
My pleasure too.
Thank